Welcome back to another episode of the Record Shepherds.
Welcome back.
This episode was shot in the year 2233 when humans are no longer here and we are all replaced by the source, the AI source.
The AI source. And Tim and I no longer have to drag our sorry asses in to the studio on a Wednesday evening. Sat down. It's all done for us. Amen.
It's probably... At that point, the word artificial intelligence will be like discriminatory, it'll be an offensive word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the robots will have, rights and diversity training and all of these things. So artificial will be outlawed.
Absolutely. That's definitely the next step.
Yes. But until then, we are here.
In human form.
With
only moderate intelligence.
Very moderate intelligence, but we are ready to bring you another fabulous episode. So I want to give another shout out to Brian from Global Citizen for stopping by. That was really amazing of him to lend his time to us. And it was a great episode. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brian, for stopping by. And for anybody who did not happen to catch the last episode, please tune in. And you will learn, amongst other things, how you can earn tickets for the Global Citizen Festival.
Definitely. How's your week been?
This week has been good, just trying to get back into a routine. I was out in Nashville the week before, and I always like going down to Nashville, Music City.
Yes.
So, I was down there for a few days, and... catching up with people, and I was like down there at like a little bit of a conference type of thing, so all different topics discussed, and I just like Nashville as a place. It's I'll tell you a little interesting fact. Like, I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland. This is essentially a Belfast accent, and when I lived in London, I used to go back to Belfast, and it always occurred to me how much more livable these towns outside the big city are. And so when I'm living in New York and I go down to Nashville, I get these familiar feelings. It kind of reminds me of Belfast. And the first time I spoke of this, my brother was able to inform me that Belfast and Nashville are twin cities.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of twin cities like in the U.S. and places in Europe.
Yeah, there are, and all throughout the world. Like there's, and I think Nashville's actually twinned with 3 cities. I can't remember what the other 2 are, but it was so quadruplets. It felt so familiar, just the vibe and everything like that. So, I like getting down to Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I moved a couple of days ago, and that definitely puts things in perspective and makes me think, what the hell am I doing in New York still? From like a mental health perspective to just it's crowded and things are expensive, but I think it'll hit a ceiling and things will come back down. But I wouldn't live in any other city right now, especially when it comes to music. But yeah, maybe Nashville should be on my radar.
Yeah, well, it depends. Totally different lifestyle outside in New York, but it's just it's good to have options.
Yeah.
It's good to have options.
So I think this is a good time to sort of dive into what our topic of the episode is. And it's a very hot topic in music right now, and it's manifesting itself in other entertainment industries. There's a big old writer strike going on in the United States right now with some of the late shows, and a lot of the complaints has been about AI. AI, artificial intelligence. Now, AI, when it comes to music, what we're really talking about is people using, and I think the word AI is sort of overused. I think a lot of it is just machine-fed information to then spit out things. But if we can use AI to actually make music, and not only make music, but monetize off of the music that's being made. That has a lot of people scared, whether you're a creator, whether you're a stakeholder with our digital streaming platforms, a record label, any rights holder of any kind is talking about AI in music right now.
Yeah, it just seems to be everywhere, and in just the public discourse about not just within the music industry, but music is one of those things when it's so many people are involved in music or are fans of music, that it's one of the things like where it's likely to show up first.
Yeah.
And it has already, but of course it's just it's out with music. It's just everywhere, in all sorts of like domains right now. And you have people like Elon Musk calling for like basically a pens down for 6 months till we like sort this thing out and get some sort of framework in place. But it's just everyone's talking about it. I mean, one of the things that it brought to our attention a couple of weeks ago was this Drake and Weeknd collab track, which it was called Heart on My Sleeve. And you switch it on or you press play. For the world, you think that is a legitimate track. It sounds exactly like Drake, exactly like The Weeknd, and brilliant. And it was put up on the socials, I think TikTok at first.
Yeah. You can even, if you want to pause this episode, you can go on TikTok or YouTube right now and still hear the track. Mm-hmm. It was uploaded by a guy whose name on TikTok was Ghostwriter977.
Yeah.
Pretty cool guy, Ghostwriter977. Shout out to you. But it's freaky, right? Because we have this alleged collab between two of the biggest artists, arguably in the music industry, and they never set foot in the studio. And you see things go viral on socials when it comes to AI, people using like voice bots or voice filters to make songs. But this piqued our interest because it kind of takes it into a whole new level where from start to finish, the song is completely made by an AI generator.
Totally. I mean, I think it's important to say for the people who have not heard it, like it's a totally original composition that the machine made up and spat out. And, AI is already at such a level where the machine generated lyrics, etc., and just like the melody and everything, you can't really distinguish it from the previous catalog. And I think it important to sort of dive in. Well, I was about to say like unsurprisingly, and this is like a good time to sort of dive in how they did it. They just feed the machine, the model, all the previous Drake catalog, all the previous Weeknd catalog, and the machine, and I imagine it doesn't take very long at all, analyzes the whole thing, picks out patterns, picks out like vocal tonality,
right,
and it basically just knows how everything in music is essentially made up of patterns on some fundamental level. So it can analyze all that, and then it can just essentially extrapolate that out until these are the songs of the future, like the using the same patterns and tones and pitches and everything like that. This is what potentially a song of The Weeknd and Drake sounds like. And
it begs a question, because obviously everyone has a visceral reaction when they hear that music can now be made this way. And keep in mind, we're only in the early stages, but it begs the question, what is illegal about that? What is actually wrong on paper about feeding AI music to then create allegedly new music? And as an individual, if I'm Drake or if I'm The Weeknd, what rights, what protections do I have? Even if you're not on that big level, even if you're a smaller artist, what rights, what protections do you have legally against this type of music making?
Yeah, well, I think I'll answer that question, but one sort of surprising thing that came up from this, like this track not only appeared on like TikTok and socials, but and whatever else, YouTube probably, it also made its way onto the DSPs.
Yeah.
It also made its way onto Spotify, and effectively is eligible at some point there for like monetization.
Right.
So there's a couple of things, and there was a response from Universal, who obviously had an interest here, to protect their artists, and they intimated in their response that that this was a breach of their agreements and a violation of copyright law.
Yeah.
So, and this is where it gets interesting, and the nerd in me can come out and speak about law, copyright law. But there's two main points to touch on. First of all is this breach of copyright law, which I'll explore first. And then secondly, there's also a breach of the artist's own rights when it comes to like rights of publicity, like the name, image, likeness, which attaches to recognized voices as well. But under copyright law, there are certain exclusive rights afforded to the owner of the copyright. There's the right to control the reproduction of the work, the right to control the making of derivative works, the distribution of the work, and then things like the public performance of the work, public display of the work, and to publicly perform a sound recording by means of a digital audio transmission, as essentially a stream.
But the rights that are related to essentially this topic would be the right to reproduce the work, the right to make derivatives, and the right to distribute that work.
Yes, certainly the first two, because if you think about the thing that's actually being distributed, just to sort of talk to that, is like it's not the original work. So like the catalog that was fed into the machine, like all the Drake recordings, all the Weeknd recordings previously, all those tracks were fed in. And then my understanding is like there's it's a technical level, but there's a reproduction being made of all of those, right at some level, and for the model to be able to analyze that and sort out all the patterns, etc. And some level there's going to be a reproduction of the work. Now, I'm not technical enough to sort of tell you where the reproduction is made, but there's usually some sort of a copy being made and stored somewhere in that process. And then, so that would be the first breach, and I think that's what they're getting at there. But then arguably, these are all the new work that gets spat out the other side by the AI model. How is it not a derivative work? Like, it's literally you've fed in X many tracks, it's analyzed them, and the thing that come out the other side is certainly derived from those tracks that the AI model has studied. So I think there's a good argument. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any case law to actually determine that will be the case, but I think it's surely got to be the case by definition. This is how the model works. So that's how the record label, right, will defend it. Yeah, because those exclusive copyrights or rights under copyright afforded to copyright owners are infringed, by who this chap Ghostwriter. So they will make claims, and they'll seek to enforce their rights that way. And
let's talk about that for a little bit before you jump onto the other rights that are protected.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I think with this Ghostwriter guy, what also sort of did him in is when he published this song, he called it a Drake and a Weeknd, track. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like he released a song under a different name and happened to use their voices, under his artist name. He specifically published it saying this is Drake and the Weeknd, right?
He did.
And also, to go back to that, he had a bit of a vendetta because under a comment on one of when he originally posted the song, he said, "I was a ghostwriter for years and got paid close to nothing just for major labels to profit. The future is here," right? So he's obviously trying to make a statement by knowing that he's infringing on these rights, but is doing so to just say, I don't care. You haven't treated me right, so I'm going to do the same to you.
Yeah, I saw that comment, and it's hard to... I'd love to know. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because what does that even mean if he's ghostwriting? Because usually, look, as people who are familiar with the music industry or have been listening to the back catalogue of the Record Shepherds episodes, can tell you the music industry is split up essentially, right? And we all know there's a thriving publishing industry, and you know the two, for the most part, live in relative harmony in that like record labels accept that they have to pay publishers, you know, mechanical royalties and performance royalties for the tracks. So like, so everyone's, it should be no stranger that there are, you know, songwriters to be paid. So I don't understand, you know, like if you're writing, you're generally getting cuts, right? You know, as long as you've like, you know what you're doing, you're well represented, you should be getting paid for your...
I think that's the issue though. And I think, at least when I hear the term ghostwriter, I'm thinking this guy at some point signed agreements into which he carved himself out of getting a writer's share and was essentially paid as a work for hire to create some of these songs. And, you know, he signed it and then wasn't represented well, which is when he's comparing what he could have made as a stakeholder in the song versus like him making, I don't know, $2,500 to write a song for an artist. That's probably why he's frustrated. But
maybe
if he was listening to the Record Shepherds, he wouldn't be in that predicament. You know?
Yeah. Maybe we should reach out to him.
Yeah. But you know, I did. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. But look. But that said, you know, the fact that he released them under the, you know, Drake and the Weeknd, even if he'd not done that, it doesn't matter as far as the copyright infringement goes. You know, there's kind of like strict liability for that. You've either like copied something or you haven't, you know.
Yeah, but you know that I want to ask the question then, as we're covering the copyright protection of this, just to play devil's advocate, what is the difference between me feeding original works to an AI machine to then create a completely new song, a song that's not in existence, and me as like a musician listening and being inspired by Drake and the Weeknd and then creating a song that's in the same vein of that genre?
Okay, great question. Tim. Yeah, I'm getting real nerdy here. I'm getting excited about law again. That's lovely. But no, here's like the sort of lawyer's answer, if you like. The first one, as I said, in terms of like feeding the AI model tracks and having it use those tracks to spit something out, as we just discussed, those are direct infringements of the 6 rights afforded to you as a copyright owner. You know, the right of an exclusive right of reproduction, an exclusive right to make derivative works from your copyrighted work. So under copyright law, those are both breaches, but there is no exclusive right of, you know, it's not an offense or an infringement of copyright law to be inspired, you know, which is the second situation you talked of. And there is, of course, like you have to, you know, demonstrate there's a qualitative and quantitative aspect of copying. So you can copy you know, let's say there's a very key point of a famous song, like even a very famous note or screech or something like that. And there are examples of that. I can't even think off the top of my head, but like very famous things that you would almost instantly recognize, you know, if you heard it. And like the, you know, the James Brown, like the wow, right? That you would instantly notice that. And that's enough to attract copyright protection at times. So the point I'm saying is that, like, yes, being inspired is one thing. You can't then go and actually directly copy, you know. And there is a defense of like of fair use, right? Which sort of like is you know, it's all different types of aspects involved. That, like, how small is it? You know, how qualitatively meaningful to the original work is it, etc. But the point is that yes, there's a line that has to be towed there, but there's no no sort of infringement offense of just being inspired until the Blurred Lines case came along.
I was about to say that. I think AI is a great moneymaker for the Marvin Gaye estate. I think if we're gonna pick winners, it's definitely gonna be them.
Yeah, I mean that case was. All I would say to that is there was a lot of industry attorneys and intellectual property attorneys and entertainment attorneys who did not necessarily agree with the outcome of that case, and they effectively said that for the first time in copyright law, it's possible to own a genre,
right?
To copyright a genre, which is, of course, copyright is designed to give like people, the creators, like protection and encourage creativity, and because if you why would you put your effort into something if someone could just rip it off the next day and like get a free ride? But that has to be balanced with actually allowing creativity and and allowing people to be inspired, and the sort of art that's the way all sorts of arts work. So a lot of people thought that was like essentially not a great result for songwriters and producers.
Yeah, and I think not to like mince words, but I'm even wondering if as a society or an industry we're using the term AI a bit too early, because to me intelligence implies that you have the ability to be inspired rather than me plugging data into a machine and then telling it to produce something else, right? To me, is that really AI? And are we going to be at a point in the future where there is true AI to where you have a human robot walking around listening to music and being able to, make new original songs off of being inspired? And I think that, however far down the line that is, will be, it'll give you a run for your money as a lawyer.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's what people are scared about. I think they would call that like AGI, which is the like artificial, like general intelligence, when it's like, that's like next level. But I mean, at this stage, artificial intelligence, I guess I think it's still a good enough title for now in terms of like, just being able to like so quickly analyze all that data and understand it and then extrapolate it into something what might be, God, that's pretty damn intelligent. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I can't do that.
I can't. I was just thinking, but that's the whole point. That these machines are just going to be able to do it so much faster and so much more easily than our sort of dumb human minds.
So the copyright thing, that is one sort of protection that stakeholders of a particular copyright have to protect against this AI takeover. As individuals, for Drake and The Weeknd, do they have protections against this?
Yes, they do. And here in the United States, there are such thing as publicity rights, or also known as personality rights. And they're basically legal rights, usually, or in fact, exclusively at the state law level. And it essentially gives individuals legal rights over the commercial use of their name, likeness, image, voice, and any other kind of like identifiable aspects of their persona. And it's essentially just to give them the right and the ability, the exclusive ability to profit from their, persona.
Is that exclusive to celebrities, or that's a right everyone has?
No, it's a right. It's not exclusive to celebrities. It's a right everyone has, and like if someone put your image on a T-shirt or whatever and started selling it, like you're ultimately in that case a model if it's selling. So you could protect yourself that way. Not every state has it. And actually not every country has it outside the States. A lot of people rely on different laws, including like the laws of privacy, to sort of protect those types of things. But certainly in the main states that do business in the music industry, California, New York, where else? Tennessee. We're just talking about Nashville. You know, all the main ones. In fact, Nashville have pretty strong publicity rights in favor of artists, whatever, because of none other than the King, Elvis Presley.
Wow.
Yeah, he was obviously domiciled there, and that's one of the reasons his image is widely used. So they have relatively strong protections there. So yeah, like the Weeknd and Drake, like I mean, it was their voice. It wasn't even like someone trying to like impersonate their voice. It literally was their voice, but just like played back by a machine in sort of essentially different orders.
Yeah. It's a really scary song because not that it's particularly that good, but the fact that this is what we can do in 2023, it's like, okay, this is something we have to deal with soon.
There is, like I would say there, I mean, it's coming, it's already here. Like, and in fact, like we were just joking about earlier, and we were like, shall we use Chat GPT to help us with some of the research for this episode?
Which we definitely did.
Oh, we definitely did. And it, like, it's amazing. Like, for those of you, I'm sure most people have dabbled with Chat GPT by now, but like, it's already changing things. Once the technology is out of the the genie's lamp or whatever, there's no putting it back in. So it is like there's a lot of stuff to be considered, and there's a lot of stuff, like, quite rightly to be concerned about, or at least give thought to. But there's also, on the other side, like, there's an amazing possibility of opportunities, for the good, and I include using ChatGPT to come up with our episode plans as a force for good.
We could talk about like the future of AI and stuff, because I do think there are probably some good applications to this, and it's not all doom and gloom as a lot of people want to say. But before that, maybe we can go back and talk about Universal's response to the whole Drake Weekend track, and it's a pretty ironic response.
I've got it here. Do you want me to read it, or are you gonna go for it?
I'll read the first part, and then you
all right,
you can
okay.
read. So it was they took the song off of the DSPs, and a spokesperson from Universal had to say, UMG's success has been in part due to embracing new technology excuse me, and putting it to work for our artists, as we have been doing with our own innovation around AI for some time already. Which, this is interesting because they've even admitted to saying, hey, we're actually using AI, which we can talk about because that has a lot of implications for the future. And then the same spokesperson goes on to say,
with that said, however, the training of generative AI using our artists' music, which represents both a breach of our agreements and a violation of our copyright law, as well as the availability of infringing content created with generative AI on DSPs, begs the question as to which side of history all stakeholders in the music ecosystem want to be on. The side of artists, fans, and human creative expression, or on the side of deep fakes, fraud, and denying artists their due compensation.
Universal Music wants to know if you want to be on the side of the artist or the side of the people denying artists their due compensation. The biggest record label music company in the world is making the argument that they are on the right side of history, which I find pretty ironic. And it's
I mean, there is a little bit of irony there. I'm not here to bash anyone, including Universal, but no, that is slightly funny. But the point they're making is a very poignant one,
right?
And we can get into, because we were having a little bit of a conversation right before the episode about, like, where we stand on this. And as I say, the whole point of, like, copyright law, or you got to strike a balance, right, between rewarding people for their the fruits of their labor and giving them a fair opportunity at that, and not stifling creativity and innovation. Right. So my point on this was there was actually an app, wasn't there, this week that Spotify essentially blocked and started taking down their catalog.
Yeah.
Boomy,
right.
Boomy, yeah, which is an AI music generating app that's had something like over 14 million different tracks, and I don't know how many of those were uploaded on Spotify or uploaded to Spotify, but basically, given that there's 100,000 tracks a day going on to Spotify, then it wouldn't be that hard for them to get the entire catalog up there. So, but anyway, AI generated tracks, and Spotify actually blocked it because in the end they said there was like a suspicious streaming activity, which
I think is important for us to note if we're going to be fair about the conversation, and kind of leading into the discussion that we had is, with these AI tracks that they took down, they didn't take them down because they were AI tracks. And I want to make it clear, there's a distinction between making an AI generated track based off of feeding it already existing music to imitate voices and making AI tracks that are completely original, right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
The reason they took them down was because of the fraudulent streaming activity, streaming farms, streaming bots that, boosted the streams to make it appear like it had billions of streams in a couple of days, right?
Yeah, so either it made the music press because anything AI makes the music press right now.
Right.
Okay. And it wasn't a story at all. It was just that Spotify do have fraud prevention teams basically monitoring for suspicious streaming activity, basically not legit streaming activity.
Right.
Because that obviously hurts the rest of the rights holders, let's say the legitimate rights holders and legitimate artists, as every stream essentially takes a part of the revenue, the revenue pie, right, for that month. So it basically denies if it's going to a bunch of sort of streaming farms or whatever that are just cranking it, it's not fair on everyone else. So it's either that, or there is some sort of an aspect where Spotify are really trying to get a grip on AI and wondering what the hell's going on. And there is pressure being put on them now, even publicly by the likes of Universal, to do more to stop, AI. And again, they're coming out, which side of history do you want to be on?
Yeah.
This is the side of basically the legitimate creators and human creative expression, or deep fakes and machines. So
yeah,
I don't know, but anyway, they did take this off, and it just got me thinking about I feel it is a threat to the streaming ecosystem, simply because of what I just to reiterate what I said there is only a finite amount of income in the pie, from subscriptions and then from advertising money or whatever. And we already know there's 100,000 tracks a day being uploaded to Spotify. So if you're a legitimate artist, and don't forget, one of the ambitions of Spotify, or one of their goals, is to support and be able to have I think it's 1 million artists actually be able to sustain a living from their streaming service. The more artificial, if you I don't know how many artificial tracks, let's call them, artificial AI generated tracks could be made in a day, but it's a hell of a lot more than a human being, like a true human being artist is ever going to be able to, manufacture. And if you're just someone clicking a button, going another one, another one, another one, another one, and uploading those, that's essentially going to, that's fatal to the ecosystem of supporting artists.
I think for me, my perspective is that I don't necessarily disagree with you when it comes to the amount of tracks being uploaded to the streaming services and how that could be detrimental for market share overall. I come from the perspective that I believe the listeners should be the ones to decide the fates of these AI tracks, and that, maybe on the streaming services, maybe there's a marker and indication that says this is an AI generated track. But in large, we have to go back and really identify when you say words like real artists. Well, if I'm a producer and engineer and I have dedicated my life to music and I just happen to have this AI tool and I want to create music on it, to me, I don't really see a diminished artistry in that. If people like the music and people stream the music and you created the bot that made the music, then you deserve to make money off of that work. What scares me more when it comes to AI, talking about good uses and bad uses, is AI in the hands of these major companies. In this response from Universal, they already admitted to using AI. So I'm thinking, what's preventing them from using AI to exploit more the artists that they have signed to them? If you're an artist and, maybe you don't deliver your tracks in a timely manner because you're going through something personally, I, as a label executive, can be like, screw it, I actually don't need you. I'm going to use this AI and make your songs anyway and release it under your name and your likeness, and it's just going to appear in your Spotify page as your second body of work, right? To me, that seems scary. But I think, look, like, especially with the Drake and the Weeknd thing, I think a lot of that is gimmicks, which is, it's the same reason why people go to the Wax Museum. They want to see how real it looks. And I think there's probably going to be a bit of an oversaturation of that in the short term, but in the long term, I treat AI as potentially just the next drum machine or the next Pro Tools. It's going to be a tool that artists can use to actually enhance their music rather than it being like a doomsday, end of the world thing for music.
I do think there are good use cases for using it as a tool, but I totally disagree with your take on, like, a producer. It's not like as a like a like a plug-in to help enhance things and add a bit of reverb. Like, what we're talking about here is something that you hit a button and it will just totally generate the thing. Like, there is no original input. It won't be a talented producer who's been grafting away and all of a sudden AI comes and he sort of uses it to help sort of bring it to the next level. It could be anybody with no musical talent whatsoever, and you just build this machine, you get it to listen to all of the music that's out there in whatever genre, and then you literally have the machine originate the idea. That there's no, so that's where I feel like I don't want music to go to that level, and I don't even want listeners, to me that's like almost like an Armageddon situation where let's let Joe Public decide. Here's something I learned early from working in the music industry, and this is like kind of a little bit controversial or whatever. Most people don't care about music. Right?
That's a fact.
Like, most people, like, you think you do, and if you're listening to music podcasts and music is a big part of your life, you assume that it's like that for everyone. It's really not. Like, right. Most people think that music is this thing that should be
commodity.
Free. Yeah, it should be free. They turn on the radio, it's there. They don't really, they just want it to be there when they need it, and then to be able to turn it off, etc., and then not really care. So, in terms of let's let the people decide, that I have no doubt that soon AI will be able to generate music that is just as good, if not better, than a lot of humans can spit out. And again, it's not like there's been someone who's cleverly fed in bits and pieces and used a couple of AI tools to enhance it. It's literally just been created out of thin air almost, or just based on what that computer has heard of other music. And I want to be on the right side of history. I want human expression to be there. Now, do I think there are great use cases for AI and it to be used as a tool in the way that you say? I absolutely I do. And I can think of one which here's an interesting one. I know we talked about this previously. So imagine you're an artist and you're on your 6th or 7th studio album.
Yeah.
and you're going into the studio. Maybe you're a little bit like about, where am I going to take this, what direction or whatever, or just even a little bit of like writer's block or whatever. And you go into the studio on the first day, and they've fed your back catalogue into the machine and asked it to spit out 12 30-second demos. And it's because it's like your material, it's your voice. It sounds like you, it feels like you, and except it's just like 12 new compositions that you've never heard before, but it's you singing back them in almost finished form. I think the temptation to go like, oh my God, like number 5, 6, and 11, we're banging. Like let's work on those. Let's develop those into demos. I think once that technology exists, the temptation to go there will be overwhelming for a lot of people.
I hear your point, and I understand that there's a difference between the AI that we're talking about and what we have now in the music industry to create music, but I will argue there is a high level of automation that occurs in the music industry right now. If I wanted to, on Pro Tools, on Logic, Reason, any of these programs, I can find a drum loop and simply put it into the little dashboard.
Yeah.
Not spend more than 10 seconds plugging in that drum loop. I can go in and I can find guitar chord progressions and plug it in, and I can publish that. Granted, it's probably not going to sound that good, to your point, where maybe in the future AI will probably sound better than it does now. And maybe the deterrent is to mark that music as AI in the DSPs as a deterrent for people to maybe want to listen to quote unquote real music. What I'm saying is I'm less scared about the fate of the music industry, because at the end of the day, if most people don't decide that music is a high commodity for them, what that means is that the industry has to adjust. And I'm more willing to do that than, let's say, give AI to strictly the music companies, who I could totally see releasing posthumous records of an artist, because guess what? They own your rights forever, and maybe their families aren't actually, or their estate aren't actually gaining any money off of those posthumous records, but because you own their likeness forever, you as a label can release a Michael Jackson record every single year forever, because you have his voice, you have his catalog, and you can make money forever. To me, that's more scary of an AI application than, some guy posting hip hop records on SoundCloud.
That's definitely a scary thought, but I tell you what's even more scary than that is it's not the music companies.
Yeah,
it's just any other company that's to me, I actually think that the music industry and these companies are sort of more naturally aligned to preserving the artistic expression, because they've built, they've got the history, they've got the knowledge, they know how to do it with humans, and and find these people, develop them. That a lot of that, there's a lot of infrastructure and know-how in and around that, but somebody that could just set up a company tomorrow and start doing it out of their bedroom with a bot, and and then basically form a company to do it with strictly artificial, we'll call it artificial music, but AI generated music, that to me is possibly even more scary. I don't know. But
let's take it back to our catalog episode, where you even said only recently has music catalog been positioned in a way as for long-term investment and for people to actually, make money off of it generationally, as like a bond or a stock. If I'm buying into that, wouldn't I want something more concrete that I know people are going to listen to? To me, that's scary, right? Because then would I invest in the AI music company, or the company where you have to deal with people, you got to deal with egos, artists not delivering music on time? It's scary.
The things are going to change.
It's
it's a minefield. It's just to see.
We could think about 100.
Yeah. I tell you one use case where I do think immediately like it'll be a benefit to music companies or independent artists as well. Like soon, and in fact already this technology exists. Like a lot of the time you'd be like, right, okay, we're in the middle of this campaign, we're got to get the campaign started, or you know, the artist comes to you, you sign it and the record's ready to go, and it's like, okay, right, we need to press like a photo shoot, we need like press shots, and there's a bit of time to get that set up, you got to go to the location, etc. You got to do that. Like I've already seen technology where you literally just type in, you know, the artist and what you want, like what the scene should be.
Yeah.
Like, let's say like we need like moody shots at dusk on a beach, and then it just like spits out these amazing photographs.
I think even you were, and you know, we don't have to say the artist's name, but you had been working with a pretty famous legacy band, and they released a music video that was like completely, I don't know if it was AI generated, but it was generated by like a robot or something, and it was like really trippy visuals. Okay, we could talk about it after, but I remember that being a thing a couple of years ago, and all that to say is that people have been releasing like AI generated music videos.
The Kendrick Lamar video was very famous as well, whereas his face is like morphing into all different types of people. But on a day-to-day level, you know, things like that, like that,
photo shoots,
that can just be, that'll literally be a chat GPT thing, spit it out and say, right, what do you think of these? Or send them to the artist for approval. Yeah, there's a great, use these, you know, like, and then the one thing I would say to all of this is that like, in a world that becomes saturated with one thing, all of a sudden the opposite becomes like the sought after thing and the valued thing. It's like you look at Instagram, there was a while there where influencers, whatever, were like posting heavily color like filtered shots, right? And that became the kind of the trend, and it did look very cool like when it first came on the scene, and then it didn't take very long for that to quickly pass, and everyone now looks at those as being very outdated because they look so unauthentic.
Right.
So I think in a world of like, you know, of AI and sort of like fakes, you know, hesitate to say the word fakes, but you know what I mean? Like then, you know, authenticity, and you know, there will be artists who like as you know, as a point of principle, just never go near it. Right. You know, like they have like an absolute, you know, from a point of principle. Yeah. Like, you know, it's this is not art. This is just tech, basically. But you know, I don't want to say, just to your point, but using like, you know, various plugins and like drum loops and stuff, like I'm all for that. I'm not against that at all, because there's an element of creativity there. 100%. You know, you have to like decide upon that, make a decision.
It's not the same thing as like plugging in.
Yeah, of just sort of like hit and play on something and see what comes out, and you've no idea what it's going to spit out. You know,
I think it's interesting. It's the next, probably the next big question for the music industry after they figure out what they want to do with TikTok. Finally,
yeah, is that going to stay or go? But sure, there's the TikTok AI plugin coming soon to help with like to lower the entry barrier of people getting into music.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think about that. That's probably, you know, again, something that I would like no, I want the entry barrier to be like
high,
reassuringly high.
I think it's you know, it's almost akin to like Apple putting GarageBand on in every product, like on phones and on computers, because the barrier to entry to record music used to be you had to like go into a studio, right? And now people can just record music on their phone. So
good point.
There's a limit.
Good point.
I think when it comes to it's hard, because as a musician, I 100% agree with you, right? Like, you should study your craft, you should hone it, and as a fan, you want to know that the person that you're listening to has worked on their thing. But it's like, are you really, at the end of the day, going to be able to prevent the 12-year-old from posting a TikTok with some music in it, and like you can make your custom electric guitar sound or whatever it is, or automate your voice to where you sound like, you know, Miley Cyrus? Or I think I think rather than preventing it, I think we just got to figure out how to adjust, and that's something the music
Yes.
industry has historically been bad at doing.
Totally. I'll tell you one thing. As much as I'm sitting here, like
Yeah.
poo-pooing, like I'm not totally poo-pooing it because I've already said that I think there's going to be amazing use cases of it.
Definitely.
And by the way, the example I gave earlier of the artist coming in and hearing 12 demos and liking 5, 6, and 11, and then being essentially inspired by like hearing their own sound, etc. I think that's amazing. Like I said, like I think the temptation to, like once they know that that's there, I think the temptation will almost be overwhelming not to have a little listen and be inspired and build it out. And I'm not against that per se. I'm not taking a stance one way or the other. But what I will say is the day there's a fully immersive AI concert that you can go to, and it's the whole light show and the music has been generated live on the spot and everybody's there in this, like, I'll be biting your hand off for a ticket for that. That'd be amazing.
Actually, it's funny because, and this is one thing I think I definitely wanted to talk about. I think that there will be a place for that, but I don't think. One thing I'm not scared of AI doing is overtaking the live music industry. And I think you even see it now as the commodity of recorded music decreases, people crave the live experience, which has caused live music to almost be like a luxury thing. It's like buying a first class plane ticket. Just look at how ticket prices have skyrocketed in the last few years, and that's due to a lot of things like third-party ticketing and the fact that there's a monopoly on live music because the venue, the ticket, the promoter, and the ticket company is all owned by one company, so that's that. But yeah, I think that the more that recorded music is devalued, the more that live music will become like a higher thing that people buy.
Yeah.
But I do think, there will probably be AI components to it. Maybe you have AI dancers in the background, or that you use it to enhance your experience.
Yeah.
But I'm not scared of that replacing the live music experience totally.
Yeah, but then come back to tune in this time next year when there's like fully automated bots that you can't really tell the difference between.
But I wanted to ask you, based off of what you said about the temptation being too strong, what about your job? If there was an AI bot that you could use to write all your contracts and have all the conversations with the lawyers, the artist lawyers that you speak to on a daily basis, would the temptation be high for you to just press the button and you just chill out?
100%, mate.
Okay, I was trying to make the argument. You'd be like, no, I want to do my job, but okay.
No, 100%. I'll be pressing that button. Like, there's elements of the job. No, look, but there's more to it than that. Like, in terms of like actually drafting and stuff like that, I have no doubt that a machine will soon be able to do that. But in terms of like judgment calls and wisdom, like, I don't think AI is there yet. And like ultimately, like humans are not going to go away. Just the jobs are going to change and things like that. But I mean, what is it? Someone said, I like the expression, like knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. And it's like there's something in there about like like these machines like will become very clever and be able to do lots of things, etc. But ultimately, there's judgment calls. You just get like an innate sense of just having experienced certain situations and just knowing dynamics. We're dealing with
dynamics,
people.
Yeah.
It's like everything's like most businesses, the music industry included, it's a relationships business and it's a people business. So there's lots of elements like that, and again, just judgment calls, etc. That's not going to go away. But one thing that I do think like is going to be interesting is like I'm not saying that this will be. I'm sure there will be government sort of like frameworks soon, and there are a lot of intelligent people. As I say, Elon Musk calling for some sort of a framework. Because right now there is nothing. It's just like we're going full steam ahead, and with no roadmap whatsoever. So there's that, but within that's a wider concern. But like within the music industry, I do think there needs to be some sort of focus group or something like an ethics and morals committee actually thinking about these things. And like should we allow AI generated music on DSPs? Should it be, to your point, or to what we were talking about earlier, if a machine can bang out several hundred, if not thousands of these a day, but you don't want to totally quell any progression or like the types of creativity you were talking about. Should there be a limit on how much you can like upload? I don't know, but like there's lots of things to be looked at, and to what extent is it progress, and to what extent is it like genuinely killing arts and depriving human I can't believe I'm saying human but like artists, like real people, of a career, right?
Yeah.
I think there needs to be something set up to look at that. And I don't want to be on it, I'll tell you that much. It's just like absolute minefield. It pickles your head even thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, the solution could like be just creating the demand for it, but in a very segregated way, where stakeholders in the music industry actually create like an AI streaming service. So if there is a market for it and you want to get your AI music, you download AI stream version of Spotify rather than like the actual Spotify. I don't know. That could be a...
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is, we're all competing. We're all competing for attention. There's only 24 hours in the day, and humans at this point are generally asleep between 6 and 8 of them. So, like for every new app or every new stream or song that's generated, it's time that is potentially, it's a distraction, right, essentially from and you need the real. I call it the real music now, listen to me. I sound like such an old man. But, you know what I'm saying? It's like, ultimately, if you have another service like that for the AI, it's just time, and when people are not listening to the other one. And I don't know. But yeah, look, it's not entirely a bad idea, but someone needs to kick the tires.
And I think if you take nothing else away from this episode, just know with AI, no matter what happens, the Marvin Gaye estate will find a way to sue. Actually, yeah,
they're very protective.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran's in court with them right now, but we could actually cover that on another episode. That's so funny.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, maybe we will. I think we covered that pretty extensively. That it feels good. Just to see like what the future of AI is with music and how we use it for the good and how we combat some of the bad things. So
yeah, but it's there's a lot of alarmist things, and rightly so, but as I say, I think there's going to be a whole load of positive comes out from it. So it's not let's not get too worried.
Too doom and gloom.
100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of The Record Shepherds. Please like, follow, and subscribe to our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And you can also stream The Record Shepherds episodes wherever podcasts are streamed. If you have any questions, if you want to interact with us in any way, you can also email us at therecordshepherds@gmail.com. If you are an artist visiting in the New York area, or you're a part of the music industry and you feel like you have something important to say, hit us up. Maybe you'll find yourselves on the Record Shepherds couch in the near future.
Yes, you would be very welcome. So it leaves it for me to say, until the next exciting episode, continue to follow the guidance of the shepherds.
Don't be the sheep, be the goat.